Hey guys, Alex Khan here, and I do want to apologize. I'm a little tired right now. It's like 2 in the morning, but I woke up at freaking 11:50 to prepare myself to watch the midnight release of Bill and Ted Face the Music on Vudu. But yeah, other streaming websites showed the movie at midnight as well, such as Amazon Prime, but you know, I do trust Vudu implicitly with my viewing pleasures. But yeah, this was crazy. The last Bill and Ted movie was back in 1991. That's almost 30 years ago. It's 29 years ago. But yeah, this movie was very well promoted. You know, they've been showing, you know, the actors for Bill and Ted. They've been promoting this movie nonstop. And more recently, they actually had a video submission where you would actually, you know, mimic the air guitar strings from this song that they played, and you listen to the song and you just kind of mimic it, and then you would send your video submission to the Bill and Ted Face the Music production team, and they would have picked a few lucky people to be featured in the movie. And this isn't really a spoiler, but they did feature some of these clips at the very end in the credits. And I actually submitted a video submission myself. Unfortunately, they didn't pick me, but I'm really happy that they gave the fans, you know, the chance to participate. So that was a really cool thing and a great way to promote this movie. But I wanted to let's go into the review. Now, typically when I review a movie, you know, I'll give a quick plot summary just to get you guys up to speed on what I'm talking about. But this movie just came out, 2 hours ago, so I'm not going to give you the plot summary. Just know that it does involve Bill and Ted, it involves time travel, it involves historical figures. And if you guys have watched the trailers, it also involves Bill and Ted's children. And I'll talk more about that in a second. But as I said, I was really tired before I watched this movie, but once I hit play and once I saw Bill and Ted on screen, 29 years after the last movie, I woke up so hard and I just stayed awake for the next 90 minutes. Right off the bat, I want to say this movie hooked me from start to finish, and just seeing these guys stay in character from what they were 29 years ago, it was surreal. And they did it beautifully. Like, I almost cried just watching these two guys perform again for us, because these two haven't been together since Bill and Ted Bogus. That was a very long time ago. And seeing them stay in character, it feels like they were doing this just for the fans. And that's probably what they did. They did this exactly for the fans. And I hope every fan that watches this movie will appreciate that fact. Now, as I said, this movie does involve a lot of time travel. It involves Bill and Ted saving the world. That's something that, you know, that's to be expected. But this movie does it so well. And this movie, in my opinion, is a very perfect sequel to the last Bill and Ted movie back in 1991. It shows where Bill and Ted ended up in life 29 years later. And it also shows their children. And it's just a really good feeling to see that their children act just like their fathers, because it does pave the way that if they did choose to do this, they could have a Bill and Ted with these kids if they wanted to. But let's talk about the movies a bit more. So this movie, in my opinion, it worked on every level that the fans would expect. You know, from a sci-fi perspective, from a comedic perspective, and overall, people do expect this movie to be silly and over the top. That's the way the first two movies were, and that's the way this movie is too. In that respect, this movie is extremely satisfying. It's just a perfect movie. It's exactly what the fans would expect a sequel of Bill and Ted to be. A lot of times when a movie comes out so much later than its predecessor, it loses a lot of that charisma. But this movie, it just picks up right after the last movie. I mean, obviously, you know that there's a big 30-year gap, but the movie makers, they fill that gap really well. Now, I'll tell you what I like and what I didn't like, but I'm gonna do it without being specific because I don't want to, give you any spoilers for this movie. So I'll start with the bad. What I didn't like about this movie, there was one character that I wasn't really feeling, and I thought towards the end of the movie, you know, he would have had a bigger role, but he didn't. But that's okay. The rest of the movie was top notch, anyways. And as I said, this movie's supposed to be silly anyway, so you can write that character off as being pretty silly. I'm sure some of you guys will like that character, and after you watch the movie, you're probably gonna know who I'm talking about. Bill and Ted, obviously, these guys were exactly as I remembered them 30 years ago, so they were perfect. And again, if you watch the trailers, you would know about their daughters being in this movie. And I was reading a lot of comments on Facebook that people were worried that their daughters would ruin the movie. But let me tell you something, guys. These daughters were just like their parents, and they were perfect. Whoever they casted, I don't know who they were, but they were perfect as Bill and Ted's daughters. And they do play a very big role in this movie, so I love them. I thought they were awesome. I'll leave it at that. And the parts where they're time traveling was perfect too, because it set up a lot of comedic situations, and those were the funniest parts in the movie, especially as you guys know in the trailers. You would know what Bill and Ted is up to. They're trying to steal music from themselves, and that leads to confrontations with themselves, and those, in my opinion, are the funniest moments. Now, oh yeah, another thing that I really liked was seeing the historical figures. I loved seeing the historical figures. And that leads me to things that I didn't like. And that leads me back to the historical figures. I felt like the parts where they have the historical figures, they introduce them, I felt like it was a little bit rushed. Because they were starting to build up steam, and at some point they just kind of zipped on through developing these historical figures as characters in the movie. But that's really a minor flaw. I still love seeing these historical figures. They did a really good job. And I really felt them, but I just felt that they were a little bit rushed. Yeah, overall, this movie was fantastic. Like, if you're a fan, you're gonna like everything that this movie does. You might find some weaknesses, but this is a perfect sequel. This is what a fan would expect from Bill and Ted. I don't think it's gonna disappoint any fans of the original movies. Stay tuned towards the end of the credits, because there is a scene after the credits. And again, if you did submit a video, it's fun to see the videos that they chose. So I guess I can end the video there. I don't want to be very specific. I don't want to spoil this movie for you guys, just because the movie came out 2 hours ago. But I will end this review by showing you my video submission. And thanks for watching this, guys, and I hope you guys watch the movie when you can. 2, 3, 4.